sunlight, and a youthful tech-adaptive population, Nigeria is uniquely positioned to harness decentralized energy solutions that can power homes, schools, health centers, and, of course, small businesses. Initiatives such as the Rural Electrification Agency's off-grid programs, private sector mini-grid projects, and the opportunities offered by the Electricity Act 2023, which effectively liberalized the sector, have begun to demonstrate what is possible. But progress remains uneven, constrained by financing gaps, regulatory uncertainties, and policy inconsistency. Experts in this sector say the transition to renewable energy in Nigeria is no longer a matter of choice, but an imperative. The question is whether the country can move fast enough, scale boldly enough, and govern effectively enough to turn potentials into impact. As Nigeria confronts its energy future, the debate is shifting from scarcity to sustainability, from access to equity, and from ambition to execution. Can renewable energy truly bridge Nigeria's energy divide, or will it remain a fragmented solution to a systemic problem? These are the issues we shall be finding some answers to on the program today. Nigeria's energy poverty, and of course, the challenge of moving from that stage to that of sustainability. I'm joined in the studio by Mr. Joseph Ibrahim. Mr. Ibrahim is a renewable energy advocate, and he is also Nigeria's campaign director, Secure Energy Project. Thank you so much for joining us. We also expect to join us very shortly in the studio, Dorcas Nikano. She is the acting program manager, Global Initiative for Food Security and Ecosystem Preservation, GSEP. And she's also part of a group called Solar for Communities Initiative. She'll be joining us in the course of the program. Right, Mr. Ibrahim, so let's begin this way.
Yes.
What is the situation with Nigeria's energy sector today? Why do we always say that Nigeria has or is impoverished in terms of energy?
Once again, thank you for having me. Nigeria's energy issues are not new. Historically, growing up as a young person, we always hear of Up NEPA. And that is a slogan that many people can relate with. Interestingly, I saw a teenager who is about 14 years old, and as at the time NEPA was unbundled, the person was saying Up NEPA, so I'm even surprised how he knows that term. But that just tells us that the conversation around energy has been a long-standing issue. And statistics tells us that over 85 million Nigerians don't have access to energy. That is a staggering statistics, but as a culture, sometimes we hear statistics and we don't even question ourselves, what does that mean? From elementary science, we all remember that they will tell us that energy, in simple terms, is the ability or capacity to do work. And so if statistics is telling us that over 85 million Nigerians don't have access to energy, it means that we have over 85 million Nigerians who, by choice of government policy or inaction, we have taken that ability or capacity for them to do work and be productive and make contributions to the economy of the country. And so that is one of the things that gets us worried. Last year, the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics tells us that our economy grew by about 3.9%. And all of that happened with an average power generation of about 3,000 megawatts. So that tells us that the quickest way to improve the economic productivity of Nigerians is simply to give Nigerians more energy or access to more energy. And that is why this is a big concern for many of us. Currently, if you speak to many Nigerians, at the moment, my colleague was just speaking, he said he has not seen light in his house for the past 3 days. Another one said he's not even seen light for the past 1 week.
And that's in Abuja,
That
which is the
even in
nation's
Abuja.
capital and a major urban center.
Yes. So when you even go to the rural areas, it's even worse. There are communities that have not seen electricity ever. I know a project which the Rural Electrification Agency of Nigeria is running in Plateau State. There is a community called Namu. That community has never been connected to the grid. The same with another community in Ogoni, Kiani community, also never been connected to the national grid. So all of that, what the implication is that we have taken the right of those Nigerians to be able to do work and be productive. And so it is a concern, and it's something that generally we all should be worried about. Government after government have made commitments that this is an issue we want to tackle, but I think it's the time that we go beyond lip service, and as a country, we hold government more accountable. And when I say government, not the Minister of Power. As far as I'm concerned, the sector has been unbundled and privatized. We have DISCOs, and those DISCOs are not necessarily so accountable. For instance, if I don't have electricity, I don't know where to go and complain that, okay, I don't have electricity. I should be able to hold those DISCOs, or they should be able to give Nigerians explanation. Why don't we have electricity in the past 1 week? And that channel of communication and that level of accountability is totally absent in the sector. And I feel that is why we have continued years after years to have this challenge.
At least in the last 16 to 20 years, almost every administration has made one effort or the other to improve, or an effort to improve electricity generation and distribution. First, like you said, was the privatization of the sector. Generation, distribution, all privatized. It didn't yield the desired result. And then, of course, in 2023, the Electricity Act was signed into law by the present administration, which sort of decentralized the generation, distribution, and all the other things that go with electricity marketing in Nigeria. Why has it been difficult? Because before 2023, the agitation was for decentralization. Look, allow the states, allow individuals, allow corporate organizations to generate their own electricity and distribute. But since that act came into being, not much progress has been made. Not more than 1 or 2 states have even made efforts. Yes.
I remember that when that law was signed, a lot of people were so happy. It was like, this is the game changer. From tomorrow, we'll start having access to electricity in our homes. But sadly, that has not been the case. Just to give a big background for people who might not really understand why people were celebrating in 2023 when that act was signed, is that the Nigerian Constitution has the exclusive list where the federal government of Nigeria has all of the sole authority and powers to generate power and distribute to different states and communities. And that is where the concept of the national grid came in place. So the federal government generates that power and then sends it to communities. And so a lot of advocacy when people were clamoring that we should empower state government and subnationals to be able to generate their own power and have their own electricity market. So that's the Electricity Act of 2023 gives us that leverage. But unfortunately, we have not seen the kind of result we want. And we are saying that that law is 2023. It also coincides with, 2023 also coincides with the time that the president removed fuel subsidies, so that subnational governments will have more money. And so what we expect is that as they have more money, and knowing that this issue is of utmost priority, they would prioritize energy. And we expect to see a lot of investment going into mini grids, a lot of investment going into the electricity market generally in communities and subnational levels. Unfortunately, we have not seen a lot of that. What we have seen, which I also heard the Minister of Power mention in his last conference, was that over 16 states have subscribed to that law. So they have effectively established their own electricity market in terms of documents. And we historically always say that Nigerians are also always very good at writing documents and policies. So we have 16 states as at now, based on what the Minister of Power also outlined, that have documented that they have created their own electricity market. The modalities for how that is working is not so clear. Those subnationals now disconnected from the national grid, have they been able to generate their own power? At the moment, we know that there is a story in Abia that they have done that. Whether they have their own electricity market is also another thing. But then it's something that we continue to advocate. The state have more money. Nigerians are suffering as a result of the removal of fuel subsidies, so that some nationals will have more money. And now they have more money, they should prioritize energy, because that is what will give citizens the ability to do work and be more productive. So we'd rather see that investment than for them to prioritize spending more money on elections.
Elections must come, and the monies must be spent, but perhaps prioritizing the energy sector is what we should be talking about. Yeah. I mean, whether or not other aspects of production go on depends a lot on the level of energy that we have. Well, elections cannot stop any of these other... we see states that are building airports, that are building infrastructure that are not very relevant to everyday life of the people, to their businesses, to their household living and all of that. But energy is one thing that costs across. All right. We'll continue our discussion in a moment. Let's take a short break to enable us to bring on our second guest, who is joining us now. Stay with us.
The stories now break online. Don't miss anything from our real-time updates and exclusive content. Follow and participate in discussions on live TV studio programs to shape the narratives. Subscribe, engage, and share from AIT.live at AIT_online on X, AIT Online on Facebook, Official AIT Live on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads on YouTube. Stay connected with AIT on air. Don't miss anything from our real-time updates and exclusive content. Follow and participate in discussions on live TV studio programs to shape the narratives. Subscribe, engage, and share from AIT.live at AIT_online on X, AIT Online on Facebook, Official AIT Live on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads on YouTube. Stay connected with AIT on air, online, on live.
All right, let's welcome Dorcas Nikano. She is the acting program manager of the Global Initiative for Food Security and Ecosystem Preservation and part of a Solar for Communities initiative. Thank you so much, Dorcas.
Thank you so
for
much
joining
for
us.
Thank you.
So we are talking about Nigeria's energy poverty, and we know, for instance, that there are initiatives such as the Rural Electrification Agency off-grid programs. We have private sector mini-grid projects, and of course, the very limitless opportunities that is offered by the Electricity Act 2023. And many Nigerians keep wondering why we are still trapped in this centralized national grid 2 clear years after the Electricity Act came into being, and whereas there has also always been the Rural Electrification Agency in existence for so long. What do you think is responsible for this?
Okay, once again, thank you so much for having me. So from my point of view, one of the things that comes off my head is the lack of political will. Because I think if the government prioritize making the electricity situation in the country better, I feel like it's something they will do, because it's not a problem of resources. Nigeria has resources. So one thing I will point out is the lack of political will for the government to actually make electricity better in this country. We have policies. Policies are always going to be there, but the implementation of the policies is always a problem with Nigeria. So I still circle back to say one of the issues we're having is because the government have not taken it as a priority. But in recent times, I can see they are taking steps to make that better. So for that, I would say that's
well, given the amount of resources that government after government has pumped into the sector, and the fact that somewhere along the line, they privatize the generation and distribution of electricity, we still haven't seen light at the end of the tunnel.
The tunnel, exactly.
So is it just a matter of political will?
So it's a matter of political will, and it's a matter of those involved. Because, like you said, the resources are there. The resources has been budgeted for or released for several years, but we're not seeing the end result, right? So the people involved in the processes also has to do with the government, also has to do with the people. Yeah.
So, Mr. Ibrahim, like we said before, there are experts who say that the transition from what we have at the moment to renewable energy may just be the answer.
Yeah.
But first, let's understand what renewable energy is and how we need to go about it.
Yeah, so basically renewable energy is energy that can be renewed in simple terms. And some of the easiest form we have water, because you can't destroy water, right? You also have...
Isn't that what we are depending on now for our hydro electricity generation?
Yes, that's what we are at the moment, but very limited. So majority of our installed capacity, as a matter of fact, Nigeria has over 13,000 megawatts installed capacity, and 75% of that is gas, the thermal plant powered by gas. So the remaining 25, we have the dams in Kainji, Jeba, and the one also in Zungeru that is coming up, all of that. So in simple terms, renewable. So you have water, we have sunlight. And Nigeria as a country, we have abundant sunlight. There's hardly a community that you will say you don't receive sunlight in a day throughout the 365 days in a year. So that's a lot of opportunities that we have. And not just that we have sunlight, we have very high intensity. In fact, for many people, they don't even want to come out in the afternoon because of the intensity of the sunlight. So that gives us a lot of opportunities. So, but then the entire energy mix, like I've also highlighted, we have 75 powered by gas. And what we have seen is that that has not worked. First and foremost, because we, in a way to try to make energy accessible, we also played some politics, and that has cost us a lot as a country.
What do you mean by that?
So what happened is...
Energy politics.
Yes, energy politics, and usually that is detrimental to energy access. So the energy politics that we played as a country, which is something that we consciously do in many of our interventions in the country, where we situate thermal plants far from the source. So you have thermal plants in Osun, and then you need gas from Rivers State in Bayelsa to power that plant. So the cost of laying the infrastructure, the pipes, to take the gas from Rivers to Osun State or in Osogbo and all of that. So in the long run, we've seen that that has not worked. So either we have cases of pipeline vandalism, or you lose the pressure of the gas before it gets to the power plant. So what we see is that almost all the power plants are not able to generate power to full capacity. As a matter of fact, many of them are doing below 50%. So you hear even the minister in his interview 2 days ago was saying gas constraint. The issues why light is bad is gas constraint. And these are all the infrastructural constraints that we ourselves have placed because of some of the energy policies that we have played.
So is it that those who took the decision to locate this infrastructure in this place didn't know of the economics of location and scale?
We always know. It's the same reason why we have refineries in Kaduna and expect to get. It's the same reason why you just have different industries that were situated in different points across the country, far from where the source of the raw materials are. It is politics because people don't want everything to be concentrated in one. It is understandable, but when we put up our economics cap, it is not wise. So it is something that we also have. I know that today we have that. We play all of those politics when issues come up. Once we say we want to establish one big maybe thermal plant or whatever that will give us, or a solar farm that will give us 10,000 megawatts of electricity. Everybody is saying that, yes, we need it. But immediately that comes up, the politics of where would that be situated will come. You will just see it. So it's a natural problem that we have, and I think we need to move away from that and look at the issues objectively so that we can move forward. So in terms of answering your question, whether it is viable to go renewable, whether renewable energy is even viable, the alternative to all of the energy issues that we've had since, let's say, the current democracy we are running, that's 1999, has been generators. So, and many experts and reports across the country tell us that the generator capacity in terms of how much generators we are using to run our economy, we have a capacity of over between 20 to 40,000 megawatts of generator capacity, whether it's from the Tiger, I Pass My Neighbor generator, or to the big Meccano generators. All of that gives us over 20,000 megawatts to 45,000 megawatts. Now, that was easy because fuel was subsidized for a long period of time. And so people could easily assess that as an alternative. But what has happened in 2023, and for many of the big factories that run on diesel, as of today, is clocking almost 2,000 naira per liter. So it is not, and historically, you know, when the thing even started, you go to small businesses, they have NEPA price and generator price. You want to go to the salon, barb your head, the man will tell you there is NEPA price and the generator price, right? Because that was the alternative everybody could use. But now, people are no longer able to even afford the fuel. In a household, a simple mathematics that I have also done, a general household in Nigeria, let me say in urban areas, would need electricity in the evening. They usually on their generators for 3 hours just to have light so that the woman can make dinner, help the children do their assignments, and then maybe the father in the house and the men in the house want to catch up on news that happened throughout the day. So you on the gen for about 3 hours. Generally, that would, depending on the generator you are using, it maybe 1.5 kVA generator, you need about 3 liters of fuel. So for a man who would do that for 365 days, per liter of fuel is around 1.4. So if you do 1.4 times 3 liters a day, that's already giving you about 4,200 naira. If you calculate that in 10 days, that's 42,000. Roughly, if you do that for 6 months, you have over 750,000 that you spent alone on fuel, not the engine oil that you also buy, which is also very high now. So roughly, the thing is that the cost of running a generator for at least 3 hours a day is over 1.5 million naira. But then, the same solar now, and that historically, we've seen that Nigerians always say, no, I can't afford solar because, yes, the upfront investment is usually high. So, but now, with a lot of investment that have gone into solar and a lot of subsidies and technology, we see that when you do the economies of scale, whether you use a generator or you install solar is far better because you're also eliminating noise. You have comfort. You are not driving home from work and you are praying that, oh, please let there be light at home. Because that's a very popular, I think if God is to record the number of prayers he receives from Nigeria, that's one of the highest on the rank where Nigerians going home are praying that they meet light. So now we are seeing that that has been taken away. Solar gives you that. Because an average 1 kilowatt of solar, which will necessarily power all the lighting bulbs, your television, the fans in your house, is costing around, with solar panels, it's costing around 800, between 750 to 900,000 naira, which is what, based on the different products you might adopt. But generally, you have that one between 750,000 to 900,000. You will have that comfortably. When you check that with the 1.5 you will spend in a year running diesel with all the petrol, with all the noise, and then you don't even have the light. You only have it for 3 hours, than spending 900,000 or 700,000 upfront, and then you take care of all of those unnecessary inconveniences. You know that is the way for us to go. Sensibly is the way for us to go. So it's now basically for us to start speaking that how can we now make this even more affordable for ordinary Nigerians.
Okay, before we come to the affordability, Dorcas, he talked earlier on about the energy mix. For a country as big and as diverse as Nigeria, what kind of energy mix do you think we should be looking at? You talked about sunlight, water, but I know that there is also the windmill option.
Yes.
Why are we not exploring the windmills or the entire mix, for instance, given the kind of vast resources that we have in different parts of the country?
Okay, thank you so much for that question. So for the energy mix, I would say that we often go for water and sunlight, solar, because that is what is most, should I use the word, most affordable. That is what we're used to. Wind energy is good, quite all right, but it's not something that we use. It's not something that we see every day. yes, it's in use, and for wind energy, it depends on which part of the country also. It's not every part of the country that has enough wind energy that can generate electricity that we need. So for the energy mix, I would still say...
We can adopt it in that part of the country where we have enough
we can,
wind.
but we're already trying and struggling with solar now already, right? We're still trying to push solar. So I feel that's something that will also come into the mix, but that will take some time. I don't know if you understand.
Yeah, I do.
That will take some time, just like solar. Solar was not so popular. It was not as popular as it is today, right? So I feel that's something that with time, wind energy will also become something like solar energy.
Is there a possibility that even government, in spite of the fact that it has privatized power generation, distribution, and what have you, is there a possibility that the solar option can also be explored on a large scale?
Definitely.
By government?
Definitely.
Not what individuals are doing at home now.
Yeah.
I mean, if solar is a viable option, why is government not investing in it?
Exactly.
Because I mean, just a few weeks back or so, we heard of the seat of power installing solar energy for...
They have moved off the grid to solar, full solar. So if they can do that for Aso Rock, why can't they do that for the country? Can you remember why earlier I said political will? Because it's not something the government are prioritizing. It's something they can do. But they are not prioritizing that. So that's why all the campaigns and everything we're doing, we're trying to show them that if private sectors can do this, it's possible for the government to do it too. And like I said earlier, it's not like it's because of the lack of resources. If the government wants to do something, they do it. So this is something they can do. So to answer your question, yes, government can invest in solar on a large scale. Just he spoke about solar farms.
Yes.
Other countries are doing it. They go to these countries. They see these countries doing these things. Why don't they adopt what other countries are doing? Because they like to go to other countries and enjoy what they're enjoying. And this is something they can bring back home and also do. So, yes, Nigeria can do that.
Is there a possibility that you are thinking is that we did the conventional power generation, thermal and whatever, power generation, we burnt our fingers. We don't want to go into the solar option so that we do not also burn our fingers. So, is it that they just want to take their hands completely off electricity generation and distribution in whatever form?
I don't think that's the case. For what you said earlier, I think they can take examples from what the private sector is doing. So far, the private sector has been investing so much in solar, and so far, so good. It has been doing well. So I think that can be a blueprint for the government to see that if they invest in something like this, it's something that could benefit its people, because I think the government is there to help its people, to secure its people, and ensure that the nation is doing all right. So I think they can use the blueprint of what private sector has been doing, and even non-governmental organizations have been doing for years. That is a blueprint for the government to see that this is something they can invest in and they will not lose.
Ibrahim, you talked earlier on about the Rural Electrification Agency. Is that agency also exploring renewable energy at that level for rural communities? And is it something that is scalable? Or is it that the Rural Electrification Agency is just ad hoc or a pilot project at this point in time?
Yeah, I think the Rural Electrification Agency is doing a lot. For the country, in terms of the government agency, I would say they are the ones leading on decentralized power in the country. And why they are well placed is because generally, the rural people do not have a lot of energy requirements. You don't go to many rural areas and see that they have requirement for air conditioning. They have trees, and the way they build their houses is so that air can come in naturally. So they don't even need air conditioning like the what we have. And generally, we all know that the two things that consumes a lot of power, at least for Nigerians that are paying their meter bills, you know that anything that has to do with cooling, your freezers, your air conditioning system, it takes a lot of energy. Anything that also has to do with heating, your microwaves, your pressing iron, your boiling ring for boiling water, your kettles, those are the things that have the highest energy requirement. So the good thing is that in rural areas, they don't need some of this. You see that many of them, they don't need air conditioning. In fact, some of them don't even need fans because of the way they build their houses, and they make sure that they have trees all around. So the energy they need energy for are usually very small. They just need lighting where they can charge their phones, many places to charge their radios, and all of that. So like easily. The issue is that if you want to the national, it will take a long process. For as long as I know, we've been hearing talk of we need to improve our national grid, and we have seen how long that has taken. But once you want to do a mini grid system, all you just need is the resources, and you need the technical expertise, and then you move on ground. And then you have a cluster of a community that you're able to provide them with that basic energy that they need. And it's something that the Rural Electrification Agency is doing, and we continue to advocate that they do that. So all we are saying in the sector, basically we need that consistency in policy. So if the government is now saying that, yes, it's something that the Rural Electrification Agency should do, we don't want to see policy somersaults that as they are moving into rural areas, then we are proposing that we want to ban solar panels. And that makes the entire thing even more expensive. So we need that consistency and planning from government that, okay, if you have identified a short wind, to provide access to electricity for many rural communities. Like I earlier mentioned, the community in Plateau State, Namu, which the African Mini Grid Program has provided energy. And it's a beautiful project because many people, you have solar dryers, many of them are using them for agricultural production, to pump water, like I said. And just to bring us to understand the dynamics of Nigeria, many of our rural population are farmers. So some of the things that they need energy for is to irrigate their farm, particularly in this raining season. And we have also highlighted that diesel and petrol prices have gone up. So many of them are not able to do that. So with solar, we see that, yes, they are able to do that.
The question that arises, Dorcas, is this energy transition we're talking about, who should bear the cost? Is it government? Is it corporate organizations or individuals? He has just talked about communities that can benefit from such schemes, right? Yeah. Can communities on their own come up, say as cooperatives, to say, let us do this? Yeah. Who should actually bear the cost of such transition?
Okay. Thank you for that question. So to answer that question simple and short, I would say first the government, but then the other stakeholders also have responsibilities so that everything is not on the government. The government should take the lead, right? But then private companies, even the people, should also take responsibility not to leave everything into the hands of the government, because we all have a part to play. Yeah.
And you know, earlier on we talked about access.
Yes.
Ask this question. We are talking about renewable energy solutions, especially for the low-income Nigeria. How affordable is it for the low-income Nigeria? Low-income households, will this bring about another layer of inequality in society?
Yeah, and I would say we had that layer 10 years ago, right? When some of those...
There are still very many low-income households.
I know. I'm saying usually 10 years ago, nobody would even want to talk solar or renewable because of the price. They were in millions. But now, with the analogy that I gave you, many people, generators that they use because Nigerians need alternative. And the economics of scale now is telling us that generator is even more expensive. You just need to sit down and do the basic mathematics. So that's for a fact. Generator as an alternative is more expensive than solar at this current moment. That's for a fact. So then, what can we do if that is the case? We have seen some very innovative practices that the private sector is leading that I think the government can also jump on. There are companies that are doing pay-as-you-go because the basic challenge for solar is the upfront cost of installation. So a household who is getting minimum wage of 70,000 per month will not be able to cough out 800,000 at once and install solar. So we have private organizations that are doing pay-as-you-go. They come, you install the full thing, you sign a commitment that you will pay maybe 30,000 a month and spread the payment maybe across 1 year and all of that. So there are some of those payments and financing mechanisms, innovative financing mechanisms that people have come up with that I feel if the government is deliberate to provide power, they can, particularly for rural areas and ordinary Nigerians who don't have high, because ordinary Nigerians are not the ones buying air conditioning systems and all of that. So their basic energy needs is something we can cater for. And with this pay-as-you-go financing mechanism, I think it's something that we can implement and make it affordable.
What of such critical sectors as healthcare, education, even the agriculture? I mean, here we're talking about inclusivity.
Yeah.
How can sectors like this begin to think of renewable energy? And to press this home, is solar the only available alternative at this point in time?
I won't say it is the only available alternative, but it is the most viable, the one that makes economic sense at this point in time.
It's cheaper than others?
It's cheaper than others. For instance, the wind, like we said, for you to install the wind farm, you have to first do your engineering analysis to know areas that have high wind. And you know that you cannot get consistent energy, wind energy at a particular rate throughout the whole day. Even in a minute, it's always fluctuating, so it means that your energy generation would. And there are some days during the dry season where you even be looking for wind. And the wind. So that tells the time frame that we have in a month where Nigeria is really windy is also very limited, maybe 1 or 2 months. So the other 10 months of the year that we don't have so much wind, what will we then do? So that's why solar, because any day we always have sunlight. So it makes it the most
But
viable.
what happens during the rainy season? We are entering the rainy season now, when sunlight might not be available. What happens to those who depend on solar?
So the thing with solar is, even when there's no
Given
sunlight,
the fact that our energy storage has limitations.
yeah, so the thing with solar is, even when there's no sunlight, the only thing is the energy won't be as much as when the sun is out. As long as it's day, your panels will definitely receive the energy. The only difference is on a rainy day, the energy is not as much as it would if the sun was out. So you would always have energy with solar.
But that will also depend on the
intensity of the sunlight.
Apart from the intensity of the sunlight, the scale of the battery storage would come into play.
Yeah.
So what happens if a small house, a household that I talked about now, a low-income household that is able to afford it and is not able to afford a large-scale battery storage system? What happens? Is it not back to square one?
No, so, you know, and that's why we said the entire industry has changed in the last 10 years. So now we have hybrid systems. In fact, that's what many industries have. They all have hybrid systems where you have sunlight and you also you are connected to the grid. So in the point where, and usually, we are even lucky as a country that during those rainy seasons, miraculously, we see that the grid power usually improves, right? Because many people will attribute it to water in the dam and all of that. So in that period, if you have a hybrid system that is still able to charge your batteries, you know that you always have light. And when, during the hot season, which also most times we don't have electricity, you have the intensity of the sun to charge that battery. So by and large, in terms of how affordable the battery storage, basically you can always design your solar system based on your energy needs and requirements. So once you feel you have a lot of energy requirement and need, and you need to add battery, why not? You can always design that. It is expensive, right? So that's why I said we need people to jump on the pay-as-you-go financing frameworks, so that ordinary people will be able to pay, particularly small businesses that really need energy to be productive and have the ability to do work.
Okay, finally, Dorcas, decentralization has happened. But there are those who think that for us to unlock the clean energy process, it might also lead to to creating fragmented markets.
Okay, so for that, the decentralization it's a good idea. So for me, I feel it still works because every state now has the legal right to control its power and the rest of it. So for me, I would say I don't think it might cause fragmented markets, right? But I think
with a lot of fakes in the market.
Yes,
that's
yes,
what I mean
yes.
right now.
So that's where we also have where the sun comes in, because we need to check the standards. And still circles back to the government, because we need to be sure that what we're importing into the country is of high standard, because when we look the other way, definitely there are going to be a lot of fakes, not just for solar panels or its accessories, but even with other products, even down to our pharmaceuticals. There are always going to be fakes, right? But because of that, for example, for pharmaceuticals, because we have fake drugs, we don't stop importing drugs. Right? Okay. So this will bring about fragmentation, but I think it also still circles back to the role of the government and even us to ensure that we don't bring in fakes. So I think decentralization still works and it should stand.
All right, thank you so much. This is a continuous discussion, and I hope that as we go along, we'll be able to throw some more light on how we can transition smoothly to renewable energy, which is becoming the norm in other parts of the world today. Thank you so much. Dorcas Nikano is the Acting Program Manager, Global Initiative for Food Security and Ecosystem Preservation, and part of Solar for Communities Initiative. Thank you so much for your time. And of course, Mr. Joseph Ibrahim, a renewable energy advocate and Nigeria's campaign director, Secure Energy Project. Thank you for your time. That's our program for today. Join us again when we bring you a fresh edition of People, Politics, and Power. See you soon.